Welcome to Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire, a podcast covering all topics health, healing, and spirituality. I'm your host, Meena Puri. Thank you for joining me. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today's episode has to do with the good old battle between the head and the heart, and how do we unite the two for a more peaceful and a balanced existence. So many times when I work with clients, they come to me because they have exhausted all of their other options. They have tried the specialists and the different herbs and the medications and different modalities and whatnot, but still there is something missing. They really quite don't get to the root of what the problem is. So it's just like the head to think that it can do it alone. So the ego makes us think that there is something you're missing. There is something, another rule, another course that you need to take. Only if you knew how to do this, you would achieve this. So that's where many clients are. They continue to learn new things, which is wonderful, but to put it into practice, that's where the whole work, the inner work comes in. So the ego, we call it the ego, mind, head, it will continue to look to the external to find the answers. And that's why we continue to move from one thing to the next, one diet to the next, one specialist to the next, one modality to the next, thinking that someone else has the answers for you. So that can be quite overwhelming, not to mention exhausting, and you don't get the results. And actually, the confusion and the suffering remains. So then, I have seen some of my clients who begin to berate themselves, who begin to, be disappointed with themselves, that there's something you're not doing. Only if you could do this thing, only if you could follow that. Only if you could take that another course, you will have the answers. Why are you not doing that? So this leads to, to work with the mind alone is a trap. It's not going to lead us anywhere. It's just going to lead us to more and more suffering. Now, let's go to the other side. Call it heart, your heart. So many times we think heart is the place for feeling, which it is, but it's much more than that. When we think about the deeper knowing, when we think about the intuitiveness of a person, this all stems from, the heart is the word that we use for the subtleties of our existence, for our subtle aspects, our energetic aspects, our mental and emotional aspects, our spiritual aspects. So we name it heart, but it's much bigger than that. So it's not just a place of feeling, rather it's a place of a deeper knowing. And many times the knowing, you cannot verbalize it or explain it because you don't need to. It's a matter of it's something that the mind does. It'll give you explanations, justifications, reason, rationale, logic, which seems really smart and intelligent, but we're not after the smartest thing. We're after something that actually works to bring us into peace. Heart is a place of deeper knowing. It's a smarter brain. So the heart is a smarter head. So what's been happening, we all have been living in the mental flow, which we've been living life only from the thinking, only from analyzing, only from intellectualization of life. So we call it the mental flow, and there's nothing wrong with it. And look at all the things we have accomplished and done. It's wonderful, but it can't go further than that alone. So the structure of the ego is meant to fall apart, because in the long run, it's actually the ego we have to let go of, but not in the sense we may think. Ego is not a bad thing. We need the ego, but it's just that we need to direct the ego. So think of the ego as a toddler who, if you don't give directions to, it can run amok. So like we tell a toddler, okay, you sit here for half an hour, you play with this toy, or you read this book, and you now eat your lunch, right? You give it direction and the toddler is fine. It knows what to do. So ego without any guidance, without any direction, will run amok, just like a toddler will if you leave the toddler alone. So ego mind is a tool. How is it a tool? Like I had to be here, turn the computer on, adjust the light, and record this podcast. So I am doing it, but the direction is coming from, but it's driven by a place of knowing what the podcast is about. I'm not worried about what I'm going to say. I'm just going to have a conversation. So when we direct the mind to do what we need it to do, it serves us. It becomes a tool. So mind is a terrible master, but it's the most effective, useful, magnificent servant, follower. It's just that we need to direct it. So in order for us to direct the mind, we actually have to be able to listen to our heart, listen to our deeper knowing, trust it, and follow through. So I call it the heart-based ego. So this is where the mind and the heart are together. They work as a team. The solutions that we're looking for to our illnesses, suffering, life's challenges, again and again and again, we hear that the answers are within you. It's nice and wonderful to say that, but what does that really mean? To go into the inner terrain, the inner world, it can be very confusing, very overwhelming, a daunting task, and it can also be very painful because you begin to see the discrepancies between what your heart desires. And then there's all this blame, shame, and guilt. It just gives rise to so many other mind-made emotions that when we don't have the direction on how to tackle that inner world, that's what we end up doing. That's where you need a guidance. You need the expert guidance. You need someone who can not only understand what's going on with you, witness you, but handhold you as to what to do with what you notice. How do you navigate this inner world? That's the world of healing. So another thing that I wanted to mention, I made some points here. The question that I want you to ponder upon, whatever it is that you may be struggling with, an area in your life that may be struggling with, whether it's a relationship, your health, or your career, ask yourself this question: how much is this struggle really is your inner struggle between the head and the heart? So, and I also want to point out, we don't want to underestimate the power of the ego. So remember that we are coming from, a very conditioned and programmed mind where there's a lot of should. You should be able to do this. You should feel this. Why haven't you done that? When you look at this and that, you come short or you come above. There's all this comparison. There's constant self-evaluation to match up to a standard that we don't even understand what that standard is. But it's like a phantom standard that we don't know what it is. So we're continuously reaching for something without knowing where we're reaching. It's like chasing your tail. We're never going to get there. That leads to much suffering and dissatisfaction, unfulfillment of life. And we are thinking that's where we continue to look. Who has the answers? Who can help me? What do I need to learn more? So many times when we get to the matters of the heart, the deeper knowing is the unlearning we need to do. It's those messages that we heard growing up, that we took them for facts, that formed us, our beliefs, and those beliefs is what is directing our habits and behavior. It can be a difficult thing to do, but when we say yes to finding peace, to stop the suffering, to take a stand for ourselves, whatever you need to deal with, it just simply shows up. And I guarantee you, if it shows up, it means that you are good enough to handle it. You can handle it. You're strong enough to handle it. It's just that you may have never thought this way before. But when I talk to my clients, I, actually really go back to the very basics, basic questions, basic things. They are stunned. They are not only stunned, but there's a smile on their face. It's like they came home. So what they were thinking, it got validated. That's exactly, you are allowed to do this. You are allowed to think this. You are allowed to live this way. You matter. What you think, feel, desire matters. Actually, that's the only thing. That's what self-care is all about. That's what matters first. When we pay attention to ourselves and can take a stand for ourselves, can you imagine how we would be in relationships into the world? Because we allow everyone else to take a stand for themselves. When we have compassion for ourselves, we have compassion for others. So when we are diving into the subtleties of our nature, which is our intuition, our deeper knowing, our gut feeling, our heart knows, that place of knowing, that's where the answers are. The question is, or the work is, to solidify your relationship with your deeper knowing. Begin to trust it and allow it to guide your path. I know so many of our struggles are coming from, we think it should be a certain way because we've been taught that, but our deeper knowing, but our life is something different, and we have this conflict. We're continuously it's like trying to put a circle in a square, right? Rather than knowing what it is, what the deeper knowing is it a circle or a square, then allowing all of your faculties, the mental faculty, to follow. The deeper knowing is a holistic, is the whole of you. Mind, ego, likes to run solo because it wants to be in charge. Now, what sounds better? The whole of you that's integrated from that, working or operating or living your life from that place, or from the mind which thinks I'm in charge, everybody else follows me, and I'm just going to lead you here, there, and there, and actually nowhere. So, we can live our entire life and never really move an inch because we're stuck in the head. That's what it means, being stuck in the head. We can't get out of the head. And I like to believe it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters how long the conditioning has been, how long the ego has run amok. But when we have that realization, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I haven't used parts of me. I haven't utilized the deeper, the subtler, the most profound parts of me to navigate my life. When you have that awakening, we don't need to take a lifetime to make that transition. We can make it very quick, but a guidance may be needed. Maybe some people don't even need the guidance. They said they've had enough. They're like, no, this is what I feel I'm going to do. Sue me, kind of a thing, right? So continue to move towards your deeper knowing. The mind isn't wrong. The mind doesn't know the whole truth. Mind will argue you out of something because it does its best, because it wants to win. Heart knows. So come closer and closer to your deeper knowing, and notice how the conflict, the battle, the inner battle can soften and can reduce. Learn to take a stand for your deeper knowing. Learn to give it language. No apologies or explanations are needed. It comes from that knowing the truth. Truth does not need to be shouted from the rooftops. It just is. Truth speaks for itself. You don't need to defend it. Okay, that's ego's work. So come together in your heart and your head, and you will find a deeper harmony, a deeper balance in your life. If you're ready to navigate the inner train, I invite you to take a look at my membership program. It's called the Inner Compass Club, where you can begin the journey, where you get access to online learning portal. I do Facebook Live Q&As. I do training videos, guided meditations, workbooks, and whatnot. So it's really, really affordable because I made it like that. It's a great place to begin to navigate your inner world if you're ready for it. But if, many times the inner work is very personal, very intimate, and it's complex. So if that's where you're at and you need individual work, then you can schedule an initial consultation with me. I will put both links below the video. Thank you so much for joining in, and have yourself a wonderful week. And I will see you at the next episode. Thank you for watching. You can find all episodes of Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire at ayurvedichealingcenter.com. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and share your comments.